Alright, we'll see how this comes out. 4F27E servo bore here. This one's not very bad, but it is starting to wear. So I'm going to go ahead and bore this out and show you how it's done with the bore kit. You get a small sleeve, large sleeve, and you get a small reamer and a large reamer, and you get this guide. It goes down in here. You don't have to tighten this down tight. I just put them in finger tight. And you want a drill that's going to stay around 200-250 RPMs. And get you some PB. I use PB Blast. Seems to work just fine for me. Careful when you break through. Never turn your reamers backwards. Now we're going to swap over to the large one. This one's really where it's probably going to catch real hard, so when you go through with it, be very careful. You want to go all the way through, but you don't want to get caught up on the inside in here. It'll catch this little ridge right here. Alright, got a 4F27E. I'm going to put a kit with clutches and pistons, pump bushing, servo sleeve, servo, both of the shift solenoids, superior valve body kit, band, and a filter, and bore out the case for this sleeve. So we'll get going on this here. Got your reverse drum here. Reverse piston, there's two different ones, two different setups. There's another one that's solid across here, and it takes a cushion plate on the steels. That's your return spring. You got this piece here, it goes on top. We got our, not our snap ring. And then we got our snap ring. Sometimes it's hard to see. If you look on the tips of the snap ring, they have a taper to them. You want the taper facing up towards you. I'm going to start with steel. There's only 2 clutches in this drum. Our pressure plate and a flat snap ring. And we got our high clutch drum. This sits on there just like that. It's been a little bit of a snot, so I'm going to go use the foot press. We're going to put the taper of the tips up again. We're either going to put the opening here or here. Don't want it in between. I'm going to take this with me in case I need to use it to put the piston down. Went right in there. And that's what I'm talking about with the opening of your snap ring. Put it there. And these got really thick steels, and some of them they have one-sided, so the clutch will be fiber on one side and steel on the other. The flat snap ring again. You got this bearing, goes on the back side, this way. The drum sits down inside of here. line that up. This bearing here sits in just like that. We've got our hub. This bearing sits on top. This hub, and it's got a wide slot. Just got to line that up. And our snap ring. Got a good enough view of it. Got another cage spring. And here again we're going to do our snap ring, either the opening in here or right in where it straddles that. And there we go. See the opening there? Oh, and then that hide drum, there's a different setups for it also. Like I said, I've seen the single-sided clutches, and I've seen double-sided clutches, and those are real bad about getting ring cut, and the back cover is bad about wearing out too. I'll show you that in a minute. You have different pumps. Some have an O-ring, some have a flat ring like this one. Now you gotta get this low enough. You want it just below flush. You see the bevel here? You don't want to go past that bevel. These seals have a very narrow lip. The spring is very easy to pop off of here. So I just take a little bit of this gold trans gel and I run it around where the spring is. I want something that'll melt really quick so pressure can't build up behind this seal, but that will hold that spring in there while you're putting this in. And you just take this 3M weather adhesive and put a little bit on the outside of it. Tell you what, I've been having such a hard time getting parts here lately. I'm getting sick of it. Got units laying all over the place. Alright, see how these got the notches in here as a face up, and you see the recess here. It's going to face towards the front. Some of these will have a little ridge right here and it'll ride down in this groove right here. We'll line our feed holes up over here. With 10mm bolts. Put our pump O-ring on. Change out these sealing rings. Have an opening, they're just going to fit just like that together. The Ford and Mazda is a little bit different. One has a cooler line fitting out here, the other one has it in the case. Quit being that way. I have to look a little closer at that snap or sealing ring groove. Didn't look bad when I first looked at it, but maybe. These sealing ring lands are real bad about wearing out. Give you all kinds of problems. It's okay. See how the new one's right in there. Seem to be okay. And some of them have this little tab, some of them just a round ring. It's in there just like that. Let's see if we can get the servo sleeve in here. We'll call it a day. There's a little feed hole in here. Hopefully you can see down in there good. That feed hole's got to line up with this slot right here. And then this servo bore tool. You're going to get an installation guide. And you're going to take some green Loctite. And put just a dab on the outside here. Smear that in all around. You don't need a whole lot. It's going to squeeze most of it out. And when you're driving this in, you need to not put any pressure one way or the other because it will turn. And it's a pretty narrow slot to get that lined up, so you just drive it all the way. get a resizer. You stick that down in there and you drive it through several times. Get all that Loctite off of there. You drive that through several times till your servo can move nice and free. Depends on how you reamed it. If you went really fast, it tends to make the hole really tight. If you go really slow, if you go really fast, it makes the hole loose, and if you go really slow, it makes the hole tight. Just the opposite of what you think it would be. Sometimes it takes 10 passes, sometimes it takes 30, 40 passes. Sometimes it only takes a couple. I take an old servo and drive the pin out of it. This pin, just drive it out. I use this as a tool to check my bore, see if it's wore out, and I also use it to see how free it's going to be going through this sleeve. Put your servo spring in, put your servo in. Not a bad idea to lube it. Put our O-ring on the groove. Then we're going to put our plate on. This little dished area pointing back this way. It'll only go on one way. 3/8 millimeters. Change our O-rings on our manual shaft. Got our hole for our pin. We have to line up down here. Two different size holes. I've seen the large ones and small ones. Keep my pin, roll pin separate. I don't put it in a small parts basket just so I don't lose it. You don't need to drive it all the way down. I'm going to go ahead and put my axle seal in now. I just use an old bearing race that fits over the thing. And I use a bushing driver to drive it in. There, let's see if we can get that in here good. Low reverse piston. bevel plate. We got our race. We got cut out here, one there. So got a line up down here on the case. Put our snap ring in. You just push it down by hand. Come on now. There we go. And get somewhat centered. Got our ring gear with the sprag assembly. It's going to free wheel counterclockwise, lock clockwise. Got a cushion ring. Our steels. We got cut out here for 3. It's down there. Our pressure plate has 3 different areas for 3. You're just going to have to find the one that lines up where it drops down in there. Put your snap ring in, flat snap ring. And I put it opening at 12 o'clock. You got your Planetary. This here likes to separate from here, and I've seen them a couple times where they look like they were good and they weren't. So get this thing nice and hot in the cooker or your cleaning machine if you can, and then kind of tap on it and see if this ring gear don't come off of there. See if we can get this free. A lot of times after being in the cooker, bearings like to get really tight. Lube them up and get them turning. That would be good enough. This bearing here goes in like that. Our sun gear. This bearing with the lip down. Planetary. And we're going to have to lift up on the ring gear just enough to get the snap ring in. And won't come up too high, you'll come up out of them clutches. Put in our reverse and high drum. Get the two bleed orifices, make sure those check balls in there are nice and free. And we're going to put our band in. Got our band anchor pin. If you look in the tip of there's a number. That's for how long the pin is. A lot of times when you change this band out or the servo, you're going to end up, your pin's going to be the wrong length. And if I remember right, there's 7 of them. If you need to know how to make the tool to find out what pin you need, I go over that in the FNR5 rebuild, show you how to make it, how to adjust it, and this one's pretty close. We're going to put our tool in there. We're going to see how close this comes out. May just leave it like it is. I might go a little bit tighter. What I used to do is use the RE5 or an RE4, R01A, either one. Actually any Nissan. Band adjustment bolt and nut. If it came out wrong, because it's adjustable and you can make it whatever length you want. This is the tool I made it out of a Honda case bolt. What we're going to do is going to loosen this up, put this in the hole. Tighten it all the way down. Making sure our band is pretty straight. You don't want a cocked off band because it'll give you a false reading. Tighten it down until it's tight. And we're going to back it off, turn and a half. Here's one turn. Here's a turn and a half. And that band's going to be too loose, so we're going to probably end up making our own. So what you do is tighten this down. Bring that first nut down to the case, and I'll just bring this one up behind it to keep it from turning. Once we take it out, and we're going to take this out. measure from here to here. You can see how much off that bolt's going to be. It's about 1/8 of an inch right there. And this one would have probably worked, but it would have been not quite right. I'm going to go make a bolt and I'll come back. Alright, here's my new bolt. What I do is I get a Honda case bolt, and it's a 10 millimeter by 1.25 threads. And I run my die all the way down, and it's going to leave about that much. It's not threaded, about 1/8 of an inch. And I just flip it over and I tap it all the way, or cut it all the way down to the head. And once I get that done, I put me a nut on there and screw it all the way down. Then I'll cut the bolt off to where it needs to be. Then I'll grind it down, and then I use this nut. This nut will reshape the threads. So then I got, this is what the original looked like. You can see the difference there. Alright, probably about 1/8 of an inch, if I had to guess. So actually what I'm going to do is put a little bit of red Loctite on this up at the top. Actually don't need a lot of it, just enough. This will keep it from backing out on me, because these threads are not quite as robust as the original ones on the bolt. Seem to be a little bit thinner. There, yeah. You can see how much difference there was on that band play. Looking good. Now this area right here, bring this up a little bit. This area right here on the O-rings is where you're going to see a big difference on your kits. The Toledo kits, these O-rings don't fit worth a crap. Trans-Tech kits, they fit just fine. And where's my right ones? They're going to fit just a little bit snug. Not by much. But I don't know. Toledo ones will just fall in there. They won't fit right at all. Line up our feed holes. On Fords, these are 10 millimeters. On Mazdas, they're usually 40 torques. still see. Here, you got your transfer gear. You have the spring for your parking gear. It's going to go around this knob. This spring's going to go down in this groove over here and leave it sit like that. The park gear is going to go in, and then this pin's going to go in. It's going to go all the way down. You're going to take your spring, loop it into that hole. You know what? Let me make sure. Let me make sure my race was in there. I believe it was. Yes, it's in there. And you got this guide for your park rod, and then this piece sits on top. It's going to loop into this cutout area here, 2 8mm with the tips on it. Got this hub. It's got a ring groove in here for the snap ring on the Planet to hold it up. And pop into place. Your input drum. Nothing in between. If this plastic washer goes on that drum. Differential. Now these pinion gears, they can turn out of here if you get rough enough with them. So try not to, knock them out of place. On the earlier Fords, the predecessor to this tranny, used to put a piece of cardboard in there, keep them from flipping out. This one you don't have to do that, as long as you don't get too violent with it. Put your bead of silicone. Don't need much. Most of it's gonna squeeze out. Alright, both the races on this side have a shim that go underneath them. And you can't screw them up because one's bigger than the other. $10mm on all these. Some of them have this little bracket that goes right there. All these bolts are the same size. Put the axle seal in the same way I did the other one. Put the pump in. There's no gasket. Just get you plenty of lube on the O-ring. Be able to get that or not. You got your feed holes. Just lining them up. You only put the pump in one way. You can't screw it up. 10mm. It's 10mm on the pump. Our shaft turns good. Our valve body kit, our bench buddy is going to go in this accumulator hole. Just get a few turns and a few up and downs. Get two accumulators. This is the same kit for an FNR5. In an FNR5 you're going to use this other accumulator in the secondary valve body. So I just keep the extra one in the sealing rings. Sometimes if the other accumulator is super bad, I'll put it in that bore, but I don't normally stick it in. This is for cross drilling for a full-time lube. I never do that. here. I'm going to pull out. Pull the spring out. I'm going to put this dark blue spring in there. Here, pull out, and we're going to put this white spring right here. Make sure our spring is pretty centered. And on this one, pull this one out. I'm going to put the big white spring in there. Alright now. How you doing me that way? There we go. No check valves in this unit. I think I already said that. Dowel pins. Most of these plates are bonded plates. I don't ever change them. Let me see here. And we're going this way. Alright, you got 3 different size bolts that hold this in. Really short ones in the center. Medium ones go on the outside. Now on a Mazda they'll have letters on them, A, B, and C. The A's will go in a short spot, the B's will go in the medium spot, and then C's will go and hold the solenoid assembly on. Work from the center out. Get the spring and plunger. Goes in just right there. Solenoid assembly. And your screen setup. Now, some of these, like I said, are bonded, some are not. Even the ones that aren't bonded, I normally just reuse the same gaskets unless they're blown out. seals that go on here. Here's the two different styles. This is the style we have. It's got the little tips on it. 183 thousandths on the pocket for that. Right. Change out our two shift solenoids. These two solenoids right here are horribly bad about going out. I always change them. Now there are different accumulator springs, but most of them are the same as this one. So we have a free length on the outside, 2930, outside diameter 828, coil diameter 87. Inner spring is 2162. 612, and coil of 97. These are almost always yellow. We have a free length 2651, outer 825, coil 136, inner is 2683, 510, 86. And then we put this accumulator in there, and this fits pretty snug. Try your best not to roll this sealing ring out of there. I have had it happen, and it'll work fairly well, but it will eat the crap out of that bore. Alright, a manual valve. Gonna hook in this little spot right here. We got two long bolts go up here. These other bolts go everywhere else. make sure that this piece that goes on the manual valve is not pushed over too far. I've had a couple instances where it got a little bent while it was in a cooker, and it'll get hung up on the valve body. And you got a bolt that goes right here. This is your ground. A little short 8. Alright, on this side we got B down here on the body for black. The white wire goes here, purple wire goes here. Over here you got N, that's neutral. G is for green, and then and then L is for blue. Your filter and this little tip right here is going to go down in this hole. Our temperature sensor is going to clip in there. They give you a pan gasket in the kit. I don't never use them. They always leak. Comes from the factory with silicone. I put silicone. Eight millimeters on the pan. The neutral switch and the speed sensor bolts are just slightly different. This is the speed sensor, this is the neutral switch. These are pan. I never found a good way for lining these up. Give you a hole here, but there's nothing to line up with the hole. Got little notches right here. It's got to line up with the notches in here. And it usually isn't this hard, since we're on camera. It wants to be a jackass. Finally, and speed sensor on top. So I just tried to line this up back where it was with the bolt holes. You can see where the bolt holes were sitting. actually, I believe it goes that way. And we're done. Forgot, if you find this goofy little thing, it goes right here.